Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Right before the break, I was talking about the Biden-Harris administration is keeping its promise to relieve Americans from their student loan debt. So another 110,000 student loan borrowers have had $6.8 billion discharged. Now, this is from the changes made to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. There was an article from Forbes.com back in March 1st, 2022, that I talked about on the African History Network show. And it talked about how changes to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program could allow an additional 1 million student loan borrowers to have their debt forgiven. So this 6.8 billion is in addition to the 17 billion that has already been discharged by the Biden-Harris administration as well. And now it's about 800,000 people under the Biden-Harris administration that have had student loan debt discharged. So while people are waiting for Biden to wave a magic wand and discharge all student loan debt, he's not going to do that. He said that earlier this week. This is taking place right now, and people can take advantage of this. I want to go to my panel here because I think this is really important to talk about. I've been watching the Secretary Miguel Cardona, Secretary of Education, continually talk about student loan debt that's being discharged, while at the same time, a lot of people, especially a lot of African Americans I see on social media, are just waiting for student loan debt to be discharged. But a lot of us can take advantage of this right now. I want to go to Matt on this first. Matt, do you have any comments on this? And what in Texas, and you teach at a college as well, how do you think something like this will help African American college students or people who have student loan debt?
I think this is a wonderful decision, particularly because I know a number of people like me who were prosecutors or in government service for a number of years who actually got denied. Before they released this, just the other day, I was having a conversation with a former colleague of mine who has 10 years in service and applied and got denied. So in my own life, I know that this will affect me, considering there were a number of years that I was a part of this program. I think this will incentivize people not only going to government service, but staying in government service. Because in a number of industries, including the practice of law and others, people think of government service for a couple years and they go and then they try to go private sector, right, so they can make significantly more money. And I think this will allow us, one, to keep people of good caliber and of good acumen in their respective fields in the government, because they know it'll actually be forgiven. But beyond that, the bigger part is the boon that it'll give to the economy, and it'll give to particularly young families, young people who might otherwise be interested in buying a house but are dissuaded because they've got to make a gargantuan student loan payment every month. So I think this is a great thing. I think it's a great thing, particularly for graduates of like HBCUs and other people who are saddled by this debt, but who have been working in service of the government. I think it's a really, really good thing. And I also think that, it's a long time coming. I'm glad that they're keeping their promise on it. But if you look at the conversations that are being had about student loan forgiveness, there is a pretty clear demarcation with generations. I feel like younger people understand it. They feel almost like they were sold a bill of goods about getting an education and how to finance it. So they're behind student loan forgiveness. And I think that will continue to improve and permeate other generations once it's seen, the economic benefit that comes from it. So I think it's a very positive thing, and I'm glad to see them doing it.
All right, excellent. I'm coming to you here in just a second, Kelly. If we look at this article here from Bloomberg.com, U.S. forgives $6.8 billion in public service worker student loans. It says the relief, which the Department of Education says will average about $60,000 per borrower, is being given after President Joe Biden made changes to the program in October 2021, under which nonprofit and government employees can have their federal student loan debt forgiven after 10 years or 120 payments. We know African-American women disproportionately carry more student loan debt than graduated from undergraduate school than white students as well. What type of impact do you think this will have, Kelly? And do you think this will impact people that you know personally?
That's a tricky question, only because I know a lot of people who are both with just the bachelor's degree, but also
Sure.
those with bachelor's and postgraduate degrees. So for
Hmm.
those of my colleagues and associates and friends who have, who stop their education process, at least formal education process, with just the bachelor's degree, this will be huge for them because, like you said, the average amount of debt for someone with a bachelor's is around 60K. So that would help them a great deal. But on the other end of this, like myself and plenty of people who are on the postgraduate side of things, we're looking at six-figure debt that cannot be paid off in 10 years per se. Or rather, right, we can't afford to take the government job to do the 120 payments to pay it off in 10 years. So that is the issue that a lot of people say again?
I said a lot of times you have to take a pay cut to take a government job. Right.
Exactly. So and that's a large reason why I haven't gone into public service in that vein, because I literally can't afford to, even though that's where my heart has been for a long time. I literally cannot afford to do it. So for people in my bracket, when it comes to debt, I actually know people who have way more debt than I do. I know someone who has $500,000 in debt after going to undergrad, master's, PhD or JD, what have you. The 60K is like the interest rate. You know what I'm saying? That's the interest payment. So it's a tricky question. It is helpful for many, but not for all. So until we get to the all part of it, which is, people like me, people like the people I just described, it's still going to be a huge issue when you have debt that costs more than your house.
Wow. CNBC also has a story about this as well from May 4th, 2022. Education Department forgives loans of more than 110,000 people in public service. Dr. Jason Nichols, so you teach at a university as well. I know you know a lot of people who take out student loans, things like this. What impact do you think this will have? And have you talk to any people maybe who graduated from college who've had their student debt forgiven either through this program or another one from the Department of Education?
So I haven't actually directly spoken to anyone who has said to me that they've had their loans forgiven through these programs. I know a lot of people were looking for President Biden to make this a sweeping legislation that just wiped away all student debt. He has made it clear that he's not going to do that. He made that clear actually even during the campaign that he wasn't going to do that. And I will say that I think it does help. I think $60,000 is a down payment on a house in a lot of places in this country. So I think it is an important and a significant amount of money. 60K is 60K. Even for people who are saddled with huge amounts of debt, $60,000 versus nothing, which is what you've gotten for the last 10 years. I think it is significant. But as Kelly said, there are people out there who are taken advantage of, who are just trying to get an education to better their prospects, to have a family, and they've had to postpone all of that because of the way this debt system that we have works. And, I think there are things that we need to reform about education. I think public college, and I work at one, right. I think public universities should be free, tuition free. You pay for the other services, but certainly tuition should be free, and we should find other ways. Now, I know, people will complain about taxes, but education betters society. A more educated society is a stronger and better society. And so I think that should be a benefit that all citizens have. And you can't say that we can't do it, because if you go to other countries in Europe and the Middle East, some places they actually pay you to be a student. They give you a stipend to study because they realize the value for society. So I think this goes into other pieces of legislation that could actually help people in the future so they won't be saddled with debt.
Okay, thank you. Now, also, so people know, the article from Bloomberg.com goes on to say the White House has been looking into whether President Joe Biden has the legal authority to forgive student loan debt through executive action. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, we know she's leaving. We know Karine Jean-Pierre is going to be the new White House Press Secretary. But Jen Psaki said on Tuesday that the president was considering limiting his student loan forgiveness program to Americans earning less than $125,000. Forgiveness of $10,000 per borrower would clear loans for 15 million borrowers. And also, I encourage people to read the article from BusinessInsider.com that came out yesterday. Former Obama lawyer says Biden likely does not have the legal standing to cancel student debt broadly. This was picked up from the Wall Street Journal, so check that out as well.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?